What is up, everybody? Welcome to Birds of the Round Table. Today, we are talking full Eagles offseason, talking top Eagles draft targets, free agency targets, our favorite targets for the Eagles for the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator position. Joining me, as always, he is Ryan Reese. Give him a follow on X at Philly Sports PSA. What's good, Ryan?
Not much, man. The offseason is in full swing, and we got to start talking some coordinators. Cannot wait for this press conference tomorrow, where we will absolutely learn nothing, and only more questions will arise.
Of course, lots of questions heading into this offseason for sure, with not many answers, but we will do it week by week by week here on Birds of the Round Table. Also joining us is David, one of the best Eagles follows there is on X. Give him a follow at PHL Eagle News. What's good, David?
Doing good, man. How about y'all?
You're doing well, man. Let's jump right into this thing, guys. If you're watching us live, we have a lot to cover tonight. We're kind of going all over the place, so it might be a longer show than we usually do. Little G says, "I'm a big fan of the Eagles. Hopefully this season is better." Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Kool-Aid McKinstry, my draft board, Miss Chris. We will be talking about all of that in just a little bit. We also have Daniel in the house. What's going on, Daniel? Thanks for joining. Let's jump into our first question of the night, and that is our favorite offensive coordinator targets for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. Who's your guy?
So, when we started thinking about this and talking about it, I kind of wanted to make sure that I got somebody that kind of maybe fit how the Eagles think. And they always seem to like to have the guy that's, next up. And I feel like this guy, maybe he might be a year away from kind of getting some serious consideration for top jobs. But I went ahead with Gerard Johnson, quarterbacks coach from Houston. And this guy has shaped Deshaun Watson back when he was with Houston. And now you obviously see him in Cleveland, not doing as well. And then obviously the rookie campaign from CJ Stroud was truly amazing. And he was a big part of that as well. So, I think this is kind of the next step for Gerard Johnson. And I think this would be a nice for Jalen Hurts to kind of get that quarterback love. And really, it seems that Gerard Johnson knows how to get the best out of the quarterbacks that he's utilizing. And that's exactly what we need from Jalen Hurts. I mean, we saw 2 years ago, breakout season, looked amazing, and he took a significant step backwards. And I feel like a lot of that was due to the fact that they didn't really play to his strengths. And hopefully Gerard Johnson can come in and do that exactly and kind of see what Jalen Hurts does. And, maybe with a healthier season, as I think we all could see that Hurts maybe was a little banged up, combined with a OC that really wants to utilize his game, I think the Eagles can get right back to where they need to go offensively.
Absolutely. Miss Chris says, Seth Joyner. We have received so many comments on Seth Joyner for defensive coordinator on the channel. It's wild stuff. Mike says Zach Robinson. Spoiler warning, Mike. We'll be talking about him very, very shortly. That is my guy. Miss Chris says the whole team took a giant slide backwards. Absolutely. There's so many questions. David, who's your guy?
It was your guy. So I picked another guy. I stayed in the same growing and took another branch, Liam Cohen. He's a little bit of an outside of the box pick. He has 1 year experience as an NFL offensive coordinator, which was in 2022 with the Rams. He's currently the OC for Kentucky, where he calls the offensive plays, something that was stripped of him in Los Angeles. And it's a duty that he really relishes, and he wants to have it if he gets another NFL job. He recently stated that that was what he missed the most and one of the reasons why he went back to college. It's unlikely he would accept a role without that responsibility. Both of his parents were teachers. He said teaching and calling the plays is his favorite aspect of the game, and I don't think that would be an issue, obviously, with the Eagles and Sirianni. He runs a pro-style scheme. He runs a balanced attack. That includes a lot of play action to get the ball to the playmakers. He utilizes the tight ends a lot. As the wide receiver coach for the Rams in 2018 and 19, he helped Cooper Kupp develop into a 1,000-yard receiver, which not many people saw coming. He transitioned to quarterback coach in 2020, and he guided Jared Goff to his second best season ever with his second highest completion percentage. He was also the architect of the 2021 offense that Will Levis excelled in, which catapulted him into being a second-round pick. So he checks off a lot of the boxes the Eagles like. If they want to bring some fresh ideas, he has a solid resume, a proven track record. He gets the most out of his players and his superstars. So if they want to infuse a little youth, he'd be the guy. You know, I'm not so sure that they want someone as inexperienced. They might want, more veteran kind of retread guys at this point. But he would bring a lot of interesting ideas and philosophies that they kind of missed out on this season.
Yep. Let's roll into mine, and that is Zach Robinson here. We've been talking about this guy even last night. You look at the way modern NFL offenses work, and pretty much anybody that has spent time with Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan is exactly where this NFL is moving towards. Zach Robinson has been on McVay's staff for 5 years. He was the passing game coordinator, the quarterback's coach. So let's get into some nitty gritty. The Rams offense ran the second most motion in football this season, 44.1% of their snaps. This was an offense that utilizes a ton of disguise, motion, that eye candy to throw off defenses that we never saw with the Philadelphia Eagles. And when it comes to like innovation, the Rams were like the cream of the crop, man. So, and that's definitely something that would steadily improve the Eagles' offensive consistency in 2024. In his playbook, you see a lot of heavy 3 receiver sets, tight formations, play action, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And the way he approaches motion at the snap, man, would be just such a breath of fresh air, a game changer for the Eagles. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and possibly a new wide receiver to groom there as well. But 2 more reasons for Zach Robinson: big plays and red zone efficiency. The Rams had the 6th most plays of 20 yards or more this year. The team was also elite in the red zone. On red zone drives, they put up points on the board at the highest rate in the league at 96.5% and produced a successful play rate of more than 39% of the time, which was the 3rd best mark in the NFL. I feel like Zach Robinson's stress on quick decisions with the football, utilizing your agility, limiting mistakes is exactly what Jalen Hurts needs to get back to that MVP form. So give me Zach Robinson all day, baby. That's where I'm going.
Nice.
All right. We got some comments here. We got Anthony in the house. What's going on, Anthony? Oh, long-time listener here. 50 Shades of Trey. It's going to be terrible candidates. We're going to end up with Frank and still have an easy, predictable offense. And Riverboat Ron coming off some awful defenses, underperforming defenses, to say the least, when he had talent. I don't know if they're looking for young, bright minds again. It looks like they're looking towards old heads and experienced head coach like Reich. I think you're not wrong, Miss Chris. You're not wrong.
They're not looking at Reich.
What's that?
I don't think they're looking at Reich. They haven't even called him yet, but he'd be a little bit of a surprise for me. I don't think that's what they're trying to do. I don't think they're trying to throw it back to 2017. I think they got new ideas that they want to run.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah. Miss Chris says I like all 3 choices. Let's roll on to our defensive coordinator choices for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll lay this off here. I'm going with chalk here, but it's Denard Wilson here for the Philadelphia Eagles. They should never let him go to the Baltimore Ravens. We all know the story here. The Ravens this past year, number 1 pass defense in the NFL in DVOA. They only allowed 179.8 passing yards per game. They also went on to allow the fewest points per game and were tied for the most takeaways in the NFL. You saw Ravens safety Geno Stone have a career year that basically correlated with the arrival of Denard Wilson. He was second in the NFL in interceptions with 7. We saw his absence with the Philadelphia Eagles secondary between 2022 and 2023. And most importantly, as a guy who pounds the table consistently for the Eagles investing a high draft pick at the safety position, they took Kyle Hamilton, and we all know the story there. It paid dividends. So hopefully, maybe they bring in Denard Wilson, and a certain Cameron Kinchens is sitting there for the Eagles, and they make that move, who I absolutely love in this draft. So, I mean, not a surprise pick here, but I love Denard Wilson. I hope they would be able to bring him back. There's not a lot of defensive coordinator positions available. Wilson for me. So there it is. I'll throw it to you, David. Who's your guy?
I like your guy a lot. Denard Wilson, I think even the organization believes that was probably the biggest mistake they made of the offseason by letting him go out the door and trying to roll with the Fangio disciple. So I really like that pick. I went a different direction. I think the Eagles may want to focus on an experienced defensive coordinator. So I went with Leslie Frazier. He has a lot of experience with the Eagles. He was part of the, Eagles back in the early Andy Reid days. He worked with Jim Johnson before going off, doing his own thing in multiple stops. He's been in like 5-6 cities. He was a head coach for a while. Most recently, he was with the Bills as their defensive coordinator. He's expressed a desire to get back into coaching, and he's somebody who you can just allow them to run a defense. You can give them full autonomy to run the entire thing, which is something the Eagles should probably get back to. Let Nick focus on the offense and let your defensive coordinator just focus on that side of the ball. If they were to go with a younger person, I went with Glenn Schumann. He just recently stated he was going to come back to Georgia, but you never know. Money talks, and they're willing to pay head coach money for a defensive coordinator at this time. He's 41 years old. He's been with Georgia since 2016. Prior to that, he was with Alabama. He's coached a lot of the players that are on this Eagles defense: Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Dean Davis. And if they want to try to max out the potential of some of these players, Schumann might be a pretty smart hire to bring in.
All right. Schumann, I love that choice. We talked about that last night. That's a really good one. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to go with somebody I think that kind of goes away from the traditional Eagles defense, at least lately, and that's Wink Martindale, formerly of the Giants. This guy is a heavy blitzer, and a lot of people's complaint this year is that we didn't blitz. Well, what better way to do than bring in the guy who loves blitzing? Now, granted, I'm sure eventually that'll turn and say we blitz too much, but still, I think this guy would be a great fit here to kind of unlock this defense and really get after the quarterback and get back to what the Philadelphia Eagles defense is known for, and that's getting after the quarterback, getting sacks, putting pressure from the front seven. And, again, hopefully with, some work with improving our linebackers and our safeties, that'll give Wink kind of the full, key to unleash the potential of this defensive front, because we have the horses. We just got to let them free. And I think Wink Martindale might be the guy to unleash that and get us after that quarterback again, because what better way than we as fans, than we love a good Eagles defense, is when we're hitting the quarterback. So I think we'll bring that back.
Yeah, they're going to have to heavily invest in linebacker and safety if they want
to. Oh darn.
Yeah, oh darn. Guys, thank you for the comments. Let's do this real quick. And then we're going to get to our next topic of the night, which is what are the odds that Howie changes his philosophy in the upcoming draft? But some comments. What they should do is the defensive coordinator for Michigan, which is Jesse Minter, what he was able to do with Michael Penix Jr. and Jalen Milroe, just put them in a blender with disguising blitzes and coverages, was phenomenal in the college football playoff. I like Jesse Minter a lot. Or he also says, or give Denard Wilson a shot, and for OC, get someone from the Shanahan tree, which is pretty much we're all on the same page. here. All on the page. Aaron says 1 vote for Denard Wilson. Todd says Frank Reich and Wink Martindale. Please not Jim Bob Cooter. Mike likes Clint Kubiak. We did touch on him.
Yep.
He's definitely at the top of the list, no doubt. Reich better served for offensive senior assistant, and I think that's very likely. I think that is
that's actually a good point.
We have 1 vote for Glenn Schumann, David. We have more love for Denard Wilson.
Sure.
Mike says, give me Leslie Frazier over Ron all day. Yeah, none of us said Ron Rivera here.
Nope.
Too old school. School, man. We have big fans of Alabama and Georgia. Absolutely keep that train rolling. Al Harris, man, he's an up-and-comer for Dallas, right? And he's going to get a job somewhere. I would love that choice, Mike. Absolutely. Mike says Wink would bring attitude and give the defense an identity. Man, that's what they need to get back to, man. They need to, you look at the playoffs and guys flying around, hitting people, and we haven't seen that in quite some time.
Listen, you look at all of these defenses, they absolutely have an identity. And it starts because they have a good core. Most of them have a great core of linebackers and a defensive mindset that they want to go out and hit somebody. And to be perfectly honest, it didn't look like anybody on the Eagles defense towards the end of the year wanted to make contact with another human being. So I don't know what to tell you, but you switch that mindset, that changes just dividends of effort. So
Todd says, I'm still trying to get the Sirianni no answers as a head coach, trying to get the taste out of my mouth. We have a fan of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. here. We'll be talking about him very, very shortly. And let's roll on to our next question. David, what are the odds that Howie changes his philosophy in the upcoming draft? More so moving somewhat away from the trenches and into that linebacker, into the safety conversation.
If you think it's like round 1, I'm going to say very, very low, like 10%. If you're talking premium picks, which he still never does, which is, top 75, 80 picks, I think you will see him shift into that. They need a linebacker. Everybody knows it. I mean, they have used no draft capital. They have used no money as far as against their salary cap. They were 31st in linebacker and 32nd in safety, or vice versa, as far as using salary cap. And they have never, since he's taken over, after the Chip Kelly power struggle there, he has never used a 1st or 2nd round pick on a linebacker, an off-ball linebacker, or a safety. So I do think 2nd round is reasonable. I'd even say likely. I would think 65, 70, 5%. 1st round, I still don't see it. I still think he will go wide receiver or defensive end or DL or even OL, which that would infuriate me this draft cycle. But by the
way, there's been multiple 1st round or mock drafts with the Eagles taking a tackle.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, Lane literally just came out and said he intends to play through his contract, which is through 2026. So you're going to draft a guy to sit for 3 years? I mean, it makes little to no sense. But whatever. But I do think just because of the way the positions play out and the financial ramifications as far as edge and, what was the guy, Montez Sweat, who just went to Chicago? They paid him something like $84 million extension. So how are the Eagles going to keep Reddick at the end of next year? Not too likely. So I think edge, even though a lot of people don't like that, I think it's a very likely pick in the 1st round. But for the people who are clamoring for a safety or a linebacker, I do think they have the luxury of that extra pick from the Saints in the 2nd round this time. I think you might finally see them use one on it.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about our favorite draft target soon. And spoiler warning, it is linebacker. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this one? Will Howie Roseman finally shift his thinking?
Yeah, I see that. The people are a little bit more optimistic, I think, than we're going to be here. But to jump on what David was saying, if we're just talking first round, and listen, maybe I'm also doing a little bit of reverse psychology here, but there's no chance in hell we're spending a first round pick on a linebacker. No, in all seriousness, it's not happening. It's not what Howie does. In a perfect scenario for me, because also I don't know if necessarily any of these linebackers would be, a first round pick. I mean, you can absolutely convince yourself of it, but again, I more see them in the second round. So in my eyes, the ideal situation: grab yourself a safety in the first, grab yourself a linebacker in the second, and then with that other second, go ahead and get your edge. Do whatever you got to do there, Howie, to scratch that itch. But listen, I do feel like as far as the NFL draft for first round, I don't see that much changing. I am hopeful that they're able to get a safety, but as far as free agency, I think that's where we might see the slight change in philosophy. Because listen, Dibs, we were doing it last night. There's going to be one safety on the roster, and there's going to be one linebacker on the roster before free agency and before we hit the NFL draft. Like Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship. The rest of those guys are not going to be here. So you need to bring at least two starters, and if not, more depth. So you're going to need to fill that hole somehow. And if you're not going to do it in the draft, you're going to have to hit free agency. So somewhere, whether it's the draft or free agency, that mindset where linebackers and safeties don't mean anything needs to change for this team to actually compete next year.
Facts. Let's roll on to our next question of the night. Our favorite Eagles targets in NFL free agency. David, who's your guy?
Jackson, Powers, Johnson.
Wait, no, free agency.
Oh, free agency. Not my draft. All right, stick with linebacker then. Free agency. Houston, Blake Cashman, linebacker. Coupling up with what Ryan just said about Howie changing his philosophy. At some point, he's going to have to marry scheme to draft or scheme to money. He's going to have to do one or the other, because you just can't keep it, empty like that. I think it was a mistake, and I think he knows it was now, not to re-sign TJ Edwards. He wanted $6.5 million a year. That was all he got. He wanted to re-sign with the Eagles prior to hitting free agency. They didn't do it. Blake is highly athletic. He's scoring in the 95th percentile. He's had an extremely good year. He had a really good run stop rate. He's one of the better coverage linebackers in the league. The one downside is D'Amico Ryans, as a former linebacker, probably has no intention of letting him go. On the other flip side to that is this was Cashman's first season with real meaningful snaps. It could limit his market a little bit, which plays right into Howie. I looked up what he is projected, and it looks like a three-year, $18 million, $6 million a year annual average salary projection seems to be like the going rate for that. That's outside of what Howie normally does, but I don't think it'll be outside of what Howie does this year. I mean, he knows he needs one of these kind of guys, and if he doesn't like using top draft cap, he's going to have to spend a little bit of money, and this is about the only way he's going to manage to have the best of both worlds.
All right, Blake Cashman for David. Santana says Patrick Queen is a must. What about you, Ryan? Who's your free agency target?
Well, speaking of, Santana hits it right on the money. I'm going Patrick Queen. I'm going for the home run. I think Patrick Queen is one of the best free agent linebackers out there. He is young. He's coming off his rookie deal. And listen, I think Howie is going to have to change this philosophy where he just doesn't give a crap about linebackers. You obviously cannot rely on Nakobe Dean until he proves otherwise. So the one linebacker you're going to have on this team, you can't even rely on. So what do you think? You're gonna sit there and wait until the preseason starts and go, hey, who's still sitting around? Let's sign a bunch of guys and hope half of them don't go be plumbers somewhere. You can't do it again, Howie. Howie, I will say, is really good at realizing he's made a mistake and correcting. Now, he hasn't been caught on the linebacker and safety thing before this bat. So I'm hoping that this is the wake-up call to say linebacker, 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 draft, free agent. I don't care. Bring in 20 linebackers, but at least bring in somebody that has some absolute skill. Patrick Queen is young. He is talented. He's on that Baltimore defense, and they are running around flying, having a good old time, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I'd say let's go for one of the top dogs for linebackers, Howie. Come on, baby.
All right, we got back-to-back linebackers. Miss Chris says, "I'm with you for real." I believe Santana would be in agreement. I'm going to the secondary, and that's L'Jarius Sneed out of Kansas City. I mean, we all know the Eagles need help in their secondary. You know, the Eagles gave up the second most passing yards per game last year. We all know about James Bradberry and how much he fell off a cliff. We did our stay or go show last night. We were pretty much all on board with Slay coming back and the Eagles figuring out a way to get out of that James Bradberry contract and enter L'Jarius Sneed, who is one of the best coverage corners in the NFL. He allowed just a passer rating of 56.2 this year. He did not give up a single touchdown, I believe, until the playoffs, that last game. But we all know that Eagles need to inject major talent into the secondary. You know, this guy, he's sticky in coverage. He has history playing in the slot. He can get into receivers' hips. He's physical. He's a good blitzer. I don't think he had a sack in 2023, but he's got really good tape attacking quarterbacks coming off the edge. But going back to the playoffs this year, man, he allowed just two receptions for 20 yards on 8 targets in the win over Miami. Against the Bills, just 2 receptions on 3 targets for 17 yards, man. This guy's a tone setter. He's physical in run support. Contract-wise, he's probably going to make somewhere around, like, David, you're probably better at this than I am, probably like around 11 to 15 million per year. And I think this is like that back seven is exactly where the Eagles need to reshift their thinking. So L'Jarius Sneed would be a huge home run swing this offseason. I don't know if they're going to spend that much cap. Obviously, the Bradberry situation is huge there, but Sneed, give me Sneed.
They can cut Bradberry post June 1st and just eat the $4.5 million. There's no reason not to eat it. And those Gumby years, they got to eat that anyway. The other like 3.5 for the next 4 years, they're eating that. They're eating that cash any way you look at it. And to your point about paying a corner, that is where Howie will invest some money. He has shown that he's willing to throw money at that. Yeah. Patrick Queen would be great, but I don't know how much guaranteed money he's going to get. But Howie probably shies away a little bit from that. But he does pay corners. So
yeah, imagine having like linebackers and corners that can actually blitz.
No, I can't.
I cannot. Great. Anthony says Eagles need help at cornerback and safety. Cooper DeJean. We got a Cooper DeJean fan here for John.
Do need a safety.
I think Ringo is a legit starter next year. Isaiah Rodgers. We don't really talk about Isaiah Rodgers a lot.
Sure don't.
I like Ringo a lot. I'm really excited to see his development this offseason. It's going to be really fun, but they still need talent. He's not enough for me to not address. Like if one of the top 3 corners in this draft are available in Arnold and Kool-Aid and Wiggins, you gotta roll that dice. You got to. Chris,
listen, I've been saying that I don't believe that they're going to draft a corner this year. But again, in that scenario, one of those guys is just sitting there, and maybe a few of the guys you were looking at are off the board. I wouldn't hate that at all. I just think you have so many youthful guys coming back. You have Rodgers, as you said, somebody that we're going to continue to forget about until we actually see him out on the field. But, you know, you have him, you have Ringo, you have Slay, hopefully not Bradberry. And that's a good 3 to kind of start. And you have Ricks, and you have a couple of these other guys that hopefully can fill up the rest of the roster. McPherson coming back. So I don't necessarily see them investing too much, but again, stranger things have happened. And if they want to go for Snead and, just tell me to go screw off, I'm fine with that too.
Absolutely.
What'd y'all do with Avante Maddox in the stay or go?
Gone.
Out.
Same. Save $7.5 million. I mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
love the dude when he can play, man. But
but it can't play. Can't. It's too hurt.
Yep. Got to get younger. Just like the Chiefs in 2022, like the Eagles need to grow their young talent. That should be the storyline of 2024. Anthony says if the Ravens win the Super Bowl, Patrick Queen is going nowhere.
Couldn't disagree with that more. I think that solidifies him leaving, and definitely out of our price range for sure.
Matt says, "What's the flavor of green Kool-Aid tonight?" I mean, we're pretty hard on the Eagles. There's no Kool-Aid here. Miss Chris says Bradbury's got to go. Let's get a fresh kid in the draft. Absolutely. Danielle says Covey was a player who said Hurts was unapproachable, as reported by Barrett Brooks. Finally, a face to a complaint.
Really? I didn't hear that.
I did not hear that either. We've got a Avante Maddox fan in here.
I love him too. Just can't stay healthy.
Exactly. I like Maddox. But
they have money for Snead if they want him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, there's one thing Howie does, and it's Howie does great. It's find the money to sign whoever he wants.
If they let Byard go and cut Maddox, they're going to have about $40 million on the cap. I mean, they can do something if they want.
Patrick Queens and Snead. Let's go.
Yeah, that would be a great offseason. And then heavily draft defense. Daniel Stewart says we have to let these and wide receiver. We have some guys with big potential, but they have to stay on the field, John. They have to get their snaps, period.
Yeah, exactly. They can't do nothing if you won't play them. I mean, it took half the year before Ringo finally got a shot. And Nolan Smith, I feel like they forgot about him. They were like, oh, it'd be like fourth quarter. They'd be like, oh, snap. That's right. Nolan's back there. Should we maybe get him in the game? Yeah, let's give him a few snaps. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. We have to move Toastburg.
Nice.
All right, let's get into our final segment of the show. And this is going to be another regular that we'll be doing. So the free agency and the draft thing will be something we do every week, where we're just going to list you some guys. But all three guys here, all of us love the NFL draft. So this will be a fun one. Lead us off, David. Who's your boy?
Yeah, this time I'm going to be correct. Jackson Powers Johnson as my draft pick. A lot of people want a tackle, but I think the interior offensive lines probably needs to be addressed more than that does. He's the best center in the 2024 draft. He allowed 0 sacks and only 1 pressure this past season. He's powerful. He plays mean. He's a mauler, a finisher, a leader. He has the ability to lead your line for the next decade. He possesses the same ability to get down the field in similar fashion to what Kelsey, you've seen him do over the years. He is also extremely agile and efficient. He reacts quickly with ease. He wastes very little movement. He has a very high football IQ, and he puts it into practice by creating advantages and leverage and adding power with his blocks. He's a leader and a technician on the field. He's not also only one of the best prospects in the draft class, but he's also one of the most sure things you can draft. He has a very high ceiling and while also limiting risk with a very high floor. And if you want competition with Juergens for the center, that's your guy. And if he needs to play guard, that's your guy again. He's played both guard and center at a very high level in college. He can do either one. It'll give you depth, because even if everybody says you just move Juergens to center, well, who's the backup? Because you're not going to want to move Landon Dickerson off of guard it's just too many moving pieces. So they're going to have to get somebody, and I don't think there's a better somebody in the draft than him.
Yep. Jackson Powers Johnson for David. Yeah. He's my number 2 interior offensive lineman. He's awesome, man. What about you, Ryan?
Listen, anybody who's ever watched a show with me in it knows I love my linebackers and knows that I love who I'm about to select.
Panderer.
Let's go. Let's bring Trot Jr., baby. Let's bring the boy home. St. Joe's Prep coming home, baby. I couldn't be more excited if the Eagles were actually able to draft it. Not how only would you be able to get a linebacker in here, but you'd be able to the stories we could tell, bringing Trot back into the family, and having a capable linebacker for once. And honestly, he'd probably be the best linebacker we'd had since his father, and that says something. And I mean, this is a guy that, again, I feel like I've seen him kind of all over the board. But at Clemson, man, he absolutely shined. He made some humongous plays there, leading Clemson in that middle. I just love just the ferocity that he plays at, just the instincts that he has, and honestly, he would come in. He would be literally the next Kelsey, that type of just fan favorite that everybody loves and just will love for his entire tenure here. And it just so coincides with the fact that it is our biggest need. And what better story? I mean, you talk about the NFL script. I mean, what better story to bring Trot Jr. to Philadelphia to make this lifelong Eagle fan happier than I could ever be, bringing a linebacker here of his quality, drafted so early in the draft. Now, again, I think more likely it's going to be that first, second round pick that ends up being the one for Trot. And hey, listen, we did just get a third and 3/5 compensatory picks, if I could say the word. Those, to me, those all just scream moving pieces for Howie. So move up a little bit, get your Trot, bring him home, and let's go.
Jeremiah Trot. We went linebacker there. I'm going to stick with linebacker. And basically, like, these are the top two names. If you don't know anything about the draft, I think after that, you get into like mid-round guys, day two guys. But Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M is the guy I'm talking about tonight. Wasn't initially on my radar coming into 2023. He's been one of the breakout players of this year. He's consistently been one of the best players on the field this year. He had 7 sacks in a 3-game span against Auburn, Arkansas, and Alabama. This is a guy that's consistently makes plays behind the line of scrimmage. He's smooth. He's also a weapon in coverage. He has excellent length. He's got great size and foot speed potential there to cover tight ends and running backs on deep routes. This guy's a modern linebacker, man. I know a lot of people love Trotter Jr., but Edgerrin Cooper is right there, if not better. In run support, he displays the instincts to sniff out plays and use his speed to attack ball carriers. He can track down quarterbacks. He racked up a team-high 7 sacks in 10 games, and he's not afraid to be physical and throw his body around, which is something the Eagles defense really needs. We've also seen him line up in the slot, and he's looked comfortable. So I think Edgerrin Cooper is just the perfect fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. And one of my favorite scenarios for the Birds is maybe a slight trade back in the back end of round 1 and draft this guy. He'd be an instant fan favorite from day one, and exactly the level of talent this Eagles defense needs, man. Edgerrin Cooper has it all. And I love this guy. And I feel like we're going to be talking about Trot Jr. and Edgerrin Cooper for a long time.
Yeah. No,
lock that in for the next few months.
Yeah, it's 1A, 1B for me. Honestly, I think Cooper probably does have the slight edge right now for me. I feel like the attitude to which Trotter plays and the whole storyline of that plays in it to it for me. So I personally I've been on the Trot Jr. bandwagon since I knew he was in high school, before I even knew where he was going to college. So this is somebody that I've known and followed for quite a while now. So to have this all come to fruition and have him an Eagle would be too much for me to handle. So I'd love it. But Cooper, again, that I'd be flipping up for Cooper as well. So
yeah, I'm big on the cornerback train. Make no mistake. Like it's Arnold, it's Wiggins, and it's Kool-Aid. If you can get one of those 3 in that order, I am so happy. But if those guys aren't available, that's where that trade back scenario, at least for me, gets into that conversation. Danielle says, who is more important to Hurts developing? Is it Nick Sirianni or Brian Johnson? Any thoughts on that, guys?
I don't know. Most of the reports coming out say that Jalen and Brian Johnson had a lot of differences this year. So I don't know. Initially, obviously, Brian helped him throughout his entire career and childhood and so forth. But at this point, I don't know. And I don't think we'll find out tomorrow either. I think we'll hear a whole bunch of we got to do a better job, like Andy Reid used to say. But, yeah, I agree with that completely.
Here's a comment here. I'd like to see us draft a mid-round tight end because when Goddard went down, we had no one there.
Yeah.
Ryan and I will be doing our top 10 tight ends in the draft coming up. So be on the lookout for that. But tight ends got some really interesting guys. It's not a great class after Brock Bowers, but there are some sleepers. There's some big guys. There's some upside guys, like 6'6", 6'7" guys that will be breaking down.
JT Sanders.
Yeah. So I would like to see what the value of Slade, Bradbury, and Kevin Byard are, if they're worth trading them at the right price. Absolutely. More Cooper DeJean love.
Hey, let's go.
Let's roll on to, we got a lot of people liking the Axeman Jr. picks. Let's draft linebacker, cornerback, and safeties. That's the top three.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
What about tackles? We're pretty much on record saying no first-round tackles.
No, any round tackles, honestly. I mean, seriously. Like, if you need to get yourself a backup, go sign somebody. Sign somebody who could kind of be a swing tackle, if you will, just in case. But, yeah, you don't need to invest any draft capital in a tackle. Not yet, anyway.
Aaron says, I'd bet the house they do not draft a cornerback in the first round.
I will take that bet and take your house.
To be fair, those are my top three corners.
They're probably all top 15.
They're all top 15. We did a mock draft last week, and they were gone. Yeah. And I was picking them. So they'll be gone. But a couple other names, Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo.
Oh, yeah.
Love that dude.
Ennis Rakestraw is another big one to watch out for.
Kamari Lassiter.
Dark horse for the Eagles. Yeah, Kamari Lassiter is terrific too. You can call him Kamari.
Very good.
Fantastic coverage guy. Michael says the Eagles need to draft offensive line in the first. You build from the inside out. Michael, killing me, man. No.
Oh, bigger need.
Well, he said offensive line. I read that as tackle.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're right.
I still don't think they are.
Still don't think a first round, to go interior offensive line is the right call. If you can get somebody in the second, great. I get that. But as long as the other two picks that you're spending are a safety and a linebacker, I don't care what you do with the other one.
Aaron says I'd take a bag of crumble cookies for Bunbury.
I'd give someone a bag of cookies if they took Bradbury.
Yeah, right. At the airport.
I love
Slay's staying.
Yeah. Slot wide receiver. I'm going to make a video on my favorite
big
slot
need
wide receivers, guys. It's an underrated need for the Philadelphia Eagles. Wide receiver 3 is huge for this team. They need to find a guy to grow. Not
3, 4, 5, 6, and
wide receiver 3 had 21 catches for the Eagles this year. I mean, it's brutal, man.
Yeah. What happens if Payne retires? I mean, that's the changing of the guard, but it's not going to be next year. So we can pretty much lock that in. Brandon says, I know we should draft a linebacker, but how we actually do it. I think we're all in agreement, as we talked about earlier, that it probably won't be round 1. If it does happen, round 2 and 3.
Please.
I remember Jerry Robinson being drafted in the first round, so I did not see the Eagles changing philosophy. It's generational. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about, man. Hopefully that philosophy changes. Let's manifest Baby Trot into our team.
If we say it enough, it'll happen, everybody. Let's go.
Absolutely. So that wraps it up, guys. One more time, if you're watching us live, wherever you're watching, please be sure to hit that like button. If you love Jeremiah Trotter Jr., if you want him dropping the axe on the Eagles D next year, man, can you imagine?
Oh, telling you, I would just do whatever show after the draft where I would just be screaming the entire time and just a pure enjoyment.
Well, ironically, like Trotter is exactly what this team does not have. Like they haven't had a linebacker that can blitz like he can in a long time, man. He's electric, blitzing the quarterback, man. He's a really fun watch. All right, so that wraps this show up. Ryan, final thoughts, plugs. Time's yours, man.
Listen, there's a lot that's going to happen in this offseason, and we are literally only just scratching at the surface. We have to figure out our coordinators. We got to figure out, what the rest of the staff might look like. You never know, there might be other changes. So, that's first and foremost. And before you know it, free agency is going to be here. Now we have the Senior Bowl in a couple of weeks. That's kind of the start of the draft season, if you will. So let's. All I can say is make sure that you have your automatic notifications. Oh my God, he does it on purpose, right? Yeah, put on those automatic notifications for Edge of Philly Sports YouTube because we're going to be going live all throughout this offseason, talking about the draft, talking about free agency, talking about everything that you need to know. Me and Dives are going to be doing more draft shows, more prospect shows. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot to dive into. So stay with us, join the ride. And as what was it? Miss Chris said that we got to manifest baby trot. So anyway, I did want to say real quick before I do leave. Oh my God. Shout out to AP. You know who you are. And outside of that, follow me right here on X. And I'll be doing shows throughout the week. You can find me on Edge of Philly Sports.
All right. What about you, David? Final thoughts, plugs?
Plug all you guys, man. For everybody who's interested in the draft and just getting enamored with all of the prospects and watching everything, go follow Mr. Crockpot. Go follow Philly Sports PSA. Follow Shane Half NFL. Follow myself. Follow Devin Jackson, real Devin Jackson. There's a whole bunch of guys out there, man, who just putting out just excellent content for you to absorb and to learn all about these players. You got a couple months to do it. There's plenty of time to learn about all of the guys. And every single one of our handles here is constantly retweeting one another's information. So you'll find nothing but good content.
Yep.
Yeah. David's an amazing writer, puts out a ton of great content for PhillyCoverCorner.com, PhillySportsNetwork.com. Go check out David's work there. And it's awesome. Always look forward to the stuff he drops. And again, if you love the NFL draft, there's over 100 scouting reports on the channel, positional rankings. We'll be doing top 10 tight end rankings, Senior Bowl previews, guys to know, guys like sleepers to watch. It's all coming, man. So, guys, thank you, everyone, for commenting. The comments were awesome. Give my man Ryan Reese a follow at Philly Sports PSA. He is David at PHL Eagle News. I'm Dives, Mr. Crockpot. Miss Chris says, just put on my glasses and realize Shane isn't even here.
I was just about to say, to Shane.
We'll pour one out for Shane.
Miss you, Shane.
Yeah, we do miss Shane. He's got a busy week going on with moving and stuff. So Shane will be back next week. All right, guys. For Ryan, for David, for myself, thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay awesome.